Thank you very much for joining this week's talk on the Sedra of bechukosai that we are reading in the diaspora this week. And I heard a very interesting explanation that tells us why we haven't used this opportunity of the last two Sedras of the book of Vayikra to catch up with the Torah that they are reading on Shabbos in the land of Israel. And that is because by keeping it in this sequence and not merging the two Sedras of Bahar and bechukosai, we read in the diaspora the Sedra of Bamidbar in just Shabbos before Shavuos. And that is a Sedra with a special connection that we often read all over the world just before Shavuos. But because of the way the Pesach worked out this year and the fact that the last day of Pesach in the diaspora was Shabbos and not Chag in Israel, that meant that they read the Sedra of Shabbos, of the laning for Shabbos on that week, which set them a week ahead of the diaspora, means that they are going to read the Sedra in Israel of Noso just before Shavuos. So in the diaspora, we have kept this way so that we will read the Sedra of Bamidbar just before Shavuos. But there are fascinating connections between the Sedra of bechukosai and Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, which we associate with Shavuos, even though bechukosai is read in the run-up to Shavuos, and we can also connect it with Gan Eden, with the Garden of Eden. And all of this wisdom comes from one of the first three words, in bechukosai telechu, if you will go or walk in my statutes, literally translated. Let's just see how the English, if you will go in my decrees. I mean, we always struggle to get the exact nuance in English. And another version would be, let's see what the Gutnick Chumash says for this translation, just to give us a sense of how we can try to get that English understanding. If you pursue the study of my laws. So the Gutnick Chumash, the Lubavitch version, often goes according to the sense of Rashi, picks up this, which we'll come to in a minute. But overall, the idea is that this Sedra of bechukosai, which means literally in my statutes, a chok is a law that has no rational reason. Many laws in the Torah, we could call them social laws. They're laws that an intelligent human being of many other countries might come up with similar laws, not to murder, not to steal. But a chok is something that is specifically super rational. The paradigm is often given of the Parah Aduma, the red heifer, that they don't make sense, but Hashem has commanded, and this is that category of law. And it is this unusual concept of going that is associated. Telechu, you will walk, literally, and it's a very beautiful image. And we'll start by looking at the Rashi in bechukosai. So I'm going to just go through that. In bechukosai telechu, so that is Vayikra, Leviticus chapter 3, verse. Chapter 20, sorry, chapter 26, verse 3. In bechukosai telechu, if you will go in my decrees, yochel zeh kiyum hamitzvos. One might be able to think this refers to the fulfillment of the commandments, kushehu omer, when it says, es mitzvosai tishmor, and observe my commandments, va'asisem osom, and perform them. Harei kiyum hamitzvos amor. That has already been stated, the fulfillment of the mitzvahs. Ma ani makayem, what then do I fulfill with this phrase, in bechukosai telechu, if you will go in my decrees, shetihu amelim batorah, that you should be laboring in the Torah, that you should put that intense, hard effort into the study of Torah. And it's pointing something out that's very unique, that we are supposed to be working hard. This word amal is literally labor and hard work. And we are being asked to work so hard to observe the chukim, to observe these super rational laws, that it it doesn't matter if we have the most brilliant minds, we will never understand them if we apply ourselves our entire lives. So why is the Torah telling us that we need to put this effort and energy into that particular category of law? And I think that perhaps we can understand it by interpreting it that the omol, this intense labour. First of all, you might say, well, what's the point? So we won't bother. But it doesn't matter, because the study of Torah has an intrinsic value. It doesn't always have to be, so that we can see a tangible benefit at any one point. Just poring over the words of the Torah, it will impact on our psyche, on our physical perceptions as well, and it goes beyond logic and our human understanding. And so this really is the embodiment of the concept of the chok. You don't understand it, but still work at it, learn it, pour over it, spend your time and energy doing that. What else are you going to spend your time and energy on? This is what it is saying. Do make that your priority, even if you won't see a tangible benefit, even if you won't understand it, it doesn't matter. There is something from studying the words of the Holy Torah, and that is something that Hashem is, as it were, inviting us to do. Telechu, you will go, you will walk. And there's this sense of walking together with Hashem. He is inviting us to stroll together with him. And this is just such a fantastic way to prepare ourselves as we begin the countdown. We've been counting the days from Pesach to Shavuot, and we are now approaching the sort of the final week as we run up. Today's count is the 40th day of the Omer. We're going to really have completed 6 weeks of the 7-week count. And so this is, before we get to Matan Torah, we understand, Amelim Batorah, that this graft and studying of the Torah is something that we are invited to do by Hashem. We are invited to accompany him on this walk, and we get a benefit from it in ways that we will never understand. And this word bechukosai, this chakuk means chiseled. That we say that the words of the Aseret HaDibros, the 10 utterances, were chiseled into the stone. And similarly, this, through the medium of the chok, we as it were, take that chisel and chisel the words of the Torah onto our very being. And this is something that we are able to really absorb in this run-up to Matan Torah. And the connection between Matan Torah, between receiving the Torah when Bnei Yisrael, past, present and future, we have the tradition that the souls of every single person were present at Har Sinai on that momentous occasion of Matan Torah. And this was the opportunity, this was the moment where the pristine condition of Gan Eden, of the Garden of Eden, was achieved. And again, the Medrash tells us that there was a complete suspension, as it were, of the normal rules of physical of science, and all the blind saw and all the deaf heard, and everybody was healed. There was this complete oneness and wholeness of mind and body, so that any kind of malaise fell away, was healed in this aura, in this opportunity. And the pristine connection to Gan Eden, to that Garden of Eden, before the sin of Adam and Chava. And Rabbi Foreman makes in Aleph Beta makes a fascinating connection, and he picks up on this concept of halacha, of in bechukosai telechu, and that is the verse in Bereshis. So that is Bereshis chapter 3 verse 8, and I'm going to read it out. And this is actually, ironically, just after the sin. And it says, Vayishmu es kol Hashem Elohim mishalech bagan l'ruach hayom. And they heard the voice of Hashem, God, walking in the garden at the time of day. And so the concept of telechu and mishalech over there is uniting in a way that the Masorah, the Midrash, tells us that there is this connection between Gan Eden, the potential of Gan Eden, between Matan Torah and the giving of the Torah, the miracles, the suspension of nature that happened at the giving of the Torah. And this is something that we are, when we read the opening words of the Sedra of bechukosai, im bechukosai telechu, then we are invited to walk with Hashem in this way. And the Sedra of bechukosai is also referred to by the word tochacha, which translates as rebuke, because it begins with 13 verses of the consequences that will occur if im bechukosai telechu, if we go, if we take this opportunity, take this invitation from Hashem to walk in His ways. And we are given what are referred to as the blessings, and then the remaining 38 verses are referred to as the tochacha. Some people refer to them as curses, and I think that these words are so weighted. Blessings, well, certainly when we read the first 13 psukim of bechukosai, there are, and I'll just give you a sense of them. And it certainly sounds like a most wonderful collection of very positive consequences. I will provide your rains in their time. The land will give its produce, and the tree of the field will give its fruit. Threshing will overtake vintage for you, and vintage will last until the sowing. You will eat your bread to satiety, and you will dwell securely in your land. I will provide peace in the land. You will lie down with none to frighten you. I will cause wild beasts to withdraw from the land, and a sword will not cross your land. You will pursue your enemies, and they will fall before you by the sword. 5 from among you will pursue 100, and 100 from among you will pursue 10,000, and your enemies will fall before you by the sword. I will turn to you, I will make you fruitful and increase you, and I will establish my covenant with you. And you will eat that which is very old, and remove the old to make way for the new. I will place my tabernacle among you. My soul will not purge itself of you. I will walk among you. And we have this concept again of Hashem walking with us and reminding us of that Gan Eden possibility. I will be a God to you, and you will be a people unto me. I am Hashem, your God, who took you out of the land of Egypt from being their slaves. I broke the pegs of your yoke, and I led you erect. And then, from verse 14, the im lo tishma'u, and if you will not listen. And there follows 38 verses of the most horrific consequences. And the custom in some shuls is to read that in a low voice, in a quiet voice, as if we put our fingers in our ears, then it won't happen. Made the analogy sometimes that somebody gives you a map of a minefield with all of the mines, and you put your hands over your eyes and you just run through it because you don't want to think that there are mines there. Really, this is our minefield, and I believe the myths, although they sound horrific, they are really symbols of the way Hashem is just trying to give us, when He's giving us a choice, im bechukosai telechu, if you choose to walk, follow in my statutes, understand this concept of the sublime levels that Torah will enable us to reach, then these wonderful things will happen. And if you choose not to, and you might say, what is going on? How there's a no-brainer. Why would we not choose the first 13 psukim? Why would we rather have the consequences of the following 38 psukim, of these tragic, horrific events that we can tick off as we read through the history books, as we grapple with certain concepts today, that we don't understand how certain things can happen. And we read so many stories from the Holocaust, and we read the Psukim and bechukosai, and again, so many events that happened in the Holocaust will actually uh, be enactments of the words in the sedra of bechukosai. And you'd think, why would we not choose? Why would we not go in bechukosai telechu? And the concept, the reality of Bechira, of this ability of a human being to choose, means that there is a risk, and we are sometimes going to make wrong choices, and Hashem knows this, and that is why, even though it seems so obvious that we should choose to go in this way and follow the words of the Torah, and this is our gift before Shavuos, before Matan Torah, but still we make the wrong choices individually, collectively, and unfortunately we suffer the consequences. And in this regard, there is a fascinating way of looking at the overall structure of the Sedra of bechukosai, because we have the blessings in the first 13 psukim, and then we have 38 psukim of the most horrific consequences in bechukosai lo telechu. But then the concluding chapter of the Sedra of bechukosai is actually the subject of arachin, which is the value, if somebody wants to dedicate their value to the Beis Hamikdash. And this is a very technical chapter giving the exact worth. If somebody wants to give their equivalent worth to the Beis Hamikdash, then this is how the value in shekel and whatever they want to give the value of, it's exactly calculated in this sedra. And it seems to be completely unconnected to the very emotive and inspiring but frightening verses of the positive consequences that follow and the negative consequences that follow if we do not observe Hashem's words. And so this is understood, but even though the words of these 38 psukim that detail horrific consequences will come to pass, we must never think that Hashem does not value us, that Hashem does not love us. If anything, this is a sign that He is invested in us. He is not casual about us. He doesn't want us to make the wrong choices. He wants to try to help us and guide us to always make the right choices. And there is a quote that's given in the name of the Klausenberger Rebbe. And he is the rabbi who lost his wife and 11 children in the Holocaust. And he went to Israel after the Holocaust, and he set up the hospital of Laniado in Netanya, where all can come to be treated, to be healed. And at one point, his full name is Rabbi Yekusiel Yehuda Halberstam, and he had been beaten by the Nazi guards, Yamach Shemam, to semi-consciousness. He had received such a horrific beating, and as he lay barely alive, and the guards taunted him, "You think you're the chosen people? Do you still think you are the chosen people?" And his reply was, "Yes, as long as I am not the cruel oppressor of innocent victims, and as long as I am the one down here maintaining my unwavering faith in my principles and traditions, I am still able to raise my head proudly and know that God chose our people." And I think that this is a way to perhaps come close to understanding how the ways of the Torah are there to guide us and be the best human beings that Hashem has created us to be. And I think that the fullness of time we see that those very same evil gods who may have looked the picture of health, well fed with their polished shining boots, they are the ones who are reviled, who are less than dirt, and the the people who, unfortunately, those who perished and those who survived and were able to build lives and continue to be decent people and uphold the values of the Torah. These are, yes, these are the chosen people. These are the people that we aspire to be like. And again, the words that we say at the end of bechukosai, especially as we go towards the beautiful Yom Tov and opportunity of Shavuos Matan Torah, chazak chazak v'nischazek, that we should be strong, we should strengthen ourselves, and we will be strong. And it is with the help of the Torah, with the guides in this word, and the connections of understanding the unusual phrase, Im b'chukosai telechu. All this is the way that we will achieve the heights and the levels that we are capable of when we follow in the ways of Hashem and are fitting receptacles to receive the Torah. Thank you very much for listening.